Yeah,
how exactly, so I mean, a lot of our smart devices are often actually plugged into the wall still, but some of them definitely do run on battery. We're seeing more and more of that,
yeah,
which is great because that's like less that we have to plug in and have all of these wires in our house, which we love.
yeah.
So how will Wi-Fi 6 extend the life of that battery? Like how will that work?
So, a lot of, as you said, a lot of our devices have to do keep alives, right? To try and say, I'm still here, don't lose my session or connection. But a lot of the applications, like as you mentioned, IoT, are really, I have an alert to give you. So now I really just want to connect. I don't want to, be burning my battery just to
Yeah.
say I'm alive. So, protocols like Zigbee and Z-Wave have been doing that for a while and running off leakage current off battery cells. But Wi-Fi needed to do it too, right? Because we really want to have applications where we can have a camera that will wake up and take a snapshot of a picture and then go back asleep again, for
Exactly.
example. And so we need Wi-Fi for those connections. So Wi-Fi 6 explicitly targeted improving the Wi-Fi protocol, and they included what they call target wake time, which is an ability for you to set kind of like an egg timer in the device to say, go sleep for a while, I know you're there, and then wake up and give me what you need to give me, right? And that then allows the client developers, like the smartphone manufacturers, the IoT device manufacturers, then to have their device then sleep efficiently, not use the battery, but then wake up in time to get the packet from Wi-Fi that it needs.
Okay. And then I think one of our favorite topics here, not that it's a positive topic, but we're just sort of kind of focused on it, is security. Is there any sort of upside for Wi-Fi 6 in terms of data security or any kind of security about things that are going back and forth across?
Well, generally, I think in the Wi-Fi industry and the Wi-Fi Alliance have been driving improvements in security with better encryption with the WPA3 standard versus
Right.
WPA2. They're also, in outdoor and enterprise security, we've improved that too from improvements to this technology called Passpoint that allows different users to kind of roam into a Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
So all that's kind of been done as sort of adjunct to Wi-Fi 6 because a lot of the times we want to try and make it, work as much as possible on any Wi-Fi client as well. So WPA3 and certainly the sort of more enterprise features. Wi-Fi 6 itself will take advantage of the new WPA3 encryption as well then.
But
So
that's already the WPA3 is already working
it's,
right
it's already a standard at the moment,
now.
yes.
Okay.
So, but
So there's nothing new for Wi-Fi 6 that we don't.
no, exactly. But you'll see, most of the devices that will come out will support that day one instead of WPA3 2, for example, right? Because they're in that new space of security. One of the areas, again, adjunct to the Wi-Fi side of, in the protocol itself for Wi-Fi is a desire for consumers to know what's connected on their Wi-Fi network. So what you're seeing a lot of companies spring up that are developing solutions for consumers around helping them to know that the device that is currently connected to their network is who it says it is,
Yeah.
and it's doing what it says
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. So you'll see companies like Cujo, F-Secure, McAfee, with solutions that do device ID and forensics to be able to tell a user that this Wi-Fi camera you bought,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be sending streams to these two URLs, but today for some reason it started sending it to a weird one,
Right.
and it shut it down. So that's an important. It's not quite in the Wi-Fi protocol, but because Wi-Fi devices allow you now to pop in new devices like cameras all over the place and so forth, we need to think about layering on top of that new techniques to be able to protect privacy and security of consumers.
So for you, in your opinion, that's something that it needs to be handled probably outside the consumer control. I mean, it's something that needs to be done for consumers as opposed to consumers having to manage that on their own.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in our kind of in our role as a provider of an access point solution, we will bundle those services. We don't develop all of them ourselves, right? We work with partners, as I said, like Trend Micro and Cujo and F-Secure, McAfee, and we put those solutions into the access point itself for the consumers. The consumers can choose to opt in or buy those if they want to, right? If they're concerned about those services. You'll often see people, for example, not sure if your own laptop there has sellotape over some tape over
Yeah.
the camera. Yeah, so about 30%. My own analysis is about 30% of people, cover their camera on their laptop because they are concerned about privacy, right? And those consumers typically will also value home privacy, right? In terms of tools and solutions that will keep their stuff in their home from transmitting to the cloud, right, without them really knowing about it. So
Right.
we've been looking a lot at that actually in terms of using our gateway position as well to be able to, determine if any cameras are transmitting, based on patterns through the gateways, including your TVs, which have cameras, right? Your smartphones, tablets, and other devices, and also audio streaming, right? A lot of the new
Yeah.
smart speakers are doing audio streaming. Consumers are concerned that they're listening. So, a company like RS Comscope can look at the gateway and actually see if there's patterns of constant activity from, say, an audio input device that's being streamed to the cloud. Just alert the user that the device is on all the time, which may be a valid kind of application, but invariably consumers are getting more interested in figuring out what's leaving their
Yeah.
home, right? So that's a big part. And Wi-Fi is enabling it to happen, from Ring doorbells outside your home to external cameras, right? You have to keep an eye on all the stuff in terms of what it's transmitting and when it's transmitting.
Yeah, consumers are definitely asking these questions. I mean, you're seeing it more in the systems that you download into your, as you mentioned, your computer or your smartphone, alerting you that somebody wants access to this or somebody wants to see that. And
Yeah,
I think that's not because, I think that's because consumers are starting to say, I want to know that. I want to know.
yeah, and exactly. And I think one of the things to get on the Wi-Fi side of things as well, right? The applications for cameras and security, and particularly external cameras, be it doorbells or external to your home, those really stretch the limits of Wi-Fi, right? The attenuation through the home from the access point to the wall itself is usually, a range problem. But then when you think of the wall, it's the brick wall itself, attenuating even more, and then cameras right at the edge and corners of homes. So we are finding that the security cameras and wireless Wi-Fi security cameras are driving a lot of demand for better Wi-Fi solutions, because the way Wi-Fi works is that when a camera or anything is at edge of range, the way Wi-Fi works by trying to send the most bits over the strongest signal, and then it actually takes the same amount of time to send the least amount of bits over the weakest signal. So if you have cameras at the extreme edge of range, they're taking up as much bandwidth as something that's really high speed locally or close to the AP. So in Wi-Fi engineering, you want to not have what we call these bad apples. You don't want to have a lot of devices right at the edge of range doing a lot of transmission, because they're going to take up a lot of the airtime to transmit. So by having a really good coverage solution in your home, by adding a second extender, and particularly if you have external cameras and doorbells, that just pays dividends for everybody in the family, right? Not only does your external camera work well when you're trying to catch the UPS guy about to leave because you haven't signed the package, right? But it also makes sure that if you have a HD 4K security camera, that when you go to look at those recordings to zoom in on someone's face, it's not pixelated or not lower bit rates, right? And that's a key service. So one tip for consumers: never skimp on Wi-Fi, right? That's been the message that we've always given. I mean, Wi-Fi is so critical to the home. People don't even talk about the internet anymore. They talk about my Wi-Fi is gone, right? Even if it's an internet connection.
It's the worst thing.
Exactly. So, and we know everybody can't afford sort of the sort of higher end devices, but when you consider purchasing for the home and you want something to really pay dividends and not have you struggling with issues on your other applications, just spend a little bit more on the Wi-Fi solution, and it pays dividends usually.
Right. I was just saying that for Halloween, I saw a friend of mine who's gonna, if he's watching this, I'm stealing this, but he carved his pumpkin with a Wi-Fi symbol out, because it's the most scariest thing that you can imagine in the world. Is Wi-Fi.
So there's new Halloween smart devices that are Wi-Fi based. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us a little bit about Wi-Fi 6 and giving us some information about that. We really appreciate it. And if we have questions that come through, we'll definitely continue. Oh, we have one more. We have a question. That is a good question. Really quickly, do you think consumers should be buying their own Wi-Fi 6 router, or should they be maybe renting one? Is there a preference for one or the other? Does it matter?
That's a really good question. I mean, from a Comscope RS perspective, we're the world leader of supplying Wi-Fi gateways to the service providers like Comcast, AT&T, Verizon.
Right.
We're also the first with a retail Wi-Fi 6 device in the market. So what we see, we typically see the service providers improving their Wi-Fi game, right? Service providers want to be able to offer new services to consumers, so they're putting more investment into the Wi-Fi side of their own gateways and routers, and also extension. So you'll see, a couple of them have launched Wi-Fi 6 devices. Every single one of them will have a Wi-Fi 6 solution next year. What tends to happen though is that the retail business is first out on new technology, and early adopters then, when their service providers don't have a Wi-Fi 6 option for them, they'll go to retail or Amazon and buy a
Right.
Wi-Fi 6 device because the service provider doesn't have one for them. So it's this mix that we try and fill in, right? We believe that consumers, want choice themselves, like to spend a bit more on a better device than maybe their service provider is able to give them, and we facilitate that then with a retail play. But at the same time, we do see the service providers trying to keep them on their own devices, because if a consumer puts a retail router in and that's the service provider out, they may not be able to offer IoT services or other things through the third party router. I would before we go, I would give one shout out too, though, that there is maybe a crossover opportunity, because recently within the WFA we all got together and we created what was called the Easy Mesh standard. And Easy Mesh was a protocol that allowed any routers or APs to talk to each other, so they can all speak the same language. So whether it was from Aris or somebody else, it should all talk to each other. And that's an opportunity then where we have seen interest in the service providers to be able to offer a connection point to somebody's own third-party purchase device, and allow that device then to be used in both service provider mode, and also leverage the features that are uniquely put in by Aris or whoever in the retail router. So the Easy Mesh standard, I think, can allow a crossover where a consumer who buys their own device because they want to spend a bit more, or they have a preference for a certain type of device, they can still potentially get that to work within the service provider entire meshing solution with the Easy Mesh protocol, if it's supported by the service provider and the retail device. So that's a unique opportunity, I think, for a more cohesive meshing solution that allows the retail and service provider devices to blend together, versus today they're really two kind of islands from each other.
Yeah. So it sounds like it really is a preference for the consumer. It really just depends on whether they want to move in faster and get something before their service provider's ready for it. But in the future, they'll be able to do that and also still maybe potentially take advantage of things that are being provided for them with their own device. So it's
exactly.
kind of personal preference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
We will reach out definitely with questions if we get some more. I'm glad that one came in before we had to say goodbye. So, but thanks so much, and thanks everybody for joining us. Go ahead and reach out to Aris if you have your own questions as well, but you can definitely send them to us and we'll get them to Charles and we'll get some answers for you. So thanks everyone, and thanks Charles.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Bye.